Welcome to Let It Shine. I'm your host, Zion Hezekiah. I've had the pleasure of interviewing music artists, actors, professional athletes, but today I have the very distinct pleasure of interviewing the beautiful, young lady who brought me into this world. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, my dear mother, Norma Scarlett. Welcome, Mommy.
Thank you, son. Pleasure to be here.
So, Norma Scarlett is a motivational speaker. She's an evangelist as well. And as of October 2020, Norma Scarlett is now officially a published author. A Portrait of Love, the true story of a beautiful marriage. Congratulations, Mommy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. So let's begin. Why don't you give our audience just a brief synopsis on what the book is all about?
Well, my book is about a love story.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes it so unique, it's not just any ordinary love story. It's a true love story about my late husband, Joshua Scarlett. We were married for 43 wonderful years.
Yes.
And this book is written from a biblical perspective. And this book is not just for married couples, but anyone who is believing God for a spouse will benefit greatly from reading this book. As a matter of fact, I believe everyone should read this book. It's a book about relationship. And there are many tools, many wonderful tools in this book to help married couples and people who are preparing to get married. The title of the poem is What Makes a Happy and Successful Marriage. It's the caring that grows deeper and stronger. It's the thought in knowing you can confide in each other. It's the appreciation you show when you're kind to each other. It's a special togetherness that binds you to each other. It's the happiness you have that cheers up each other. It's the closeness you display when walking with each other. It's the beauty of romance as you cherish each other. It's the unselfish attitude you have toward each other. It's the peace you have knowing you are secured with each other. It's the joy you have in knowing you'll always be there for each other. It's the assurance in knowing you'll always be with each other. It's the sure confidence you have that you'll grow stronger with each other. It's the faith you have to face the future with each other. It's the relationship you build as you love each other. It's the love you share that makes the heart pine for each other. It's the hugs and kisses that draw you closer to each other. It's the clarity you have in knowing you are there for each other. It's the joy you share as you journey with each other. It's the patience you have to understand each other. It's the dreams you have that encourage you to continue with each other. It's the truth you know that you are giving everything to each other. It's the compassion you have to forgive each other. It's the grace you have to continue with each other. It's the time you take to adore each other. It's the mind you have to pursue each other. It's the attitude you have to praise each other. It's those memories you share that will help you focus on each other. It's knowing you are soulmates and there for no other. It's a special wink that says, I have eyes for none other. It's the tear that says, thank God we have each other. It's the sweet embrace that says, there is no room for another. It's the beauty of knowing you are right for each other. It's the time you take to care for each other. Last but not least, it's the trials you endure, knowing God will always walk beside you as long as you cleave to Him and cleave to each other.
I'm not just saying this because you're my mother. It's literally the most beautiful thing that I've ever read. Absolutely amazing. And as you said, it was, about you and, your husband, my father, who you were married to for 43 wonderful years. Talk to us about the process in writing the book. Like, first of all, what kind of went into, where did you get the idea to actually come up with the book? And what was your motivation, your inspiration to, put pen to paper and to aspire to become a published author?
It started when my husband passed away in 2017. And I thought within myself, what can I do to honor such a sweet and precious man? And as I was thinking about this, God just landed it in my heart to write a book to honor him. He was such a sweet, kind, gentle person, and not a lot of people knew about his disposition, how our marriage was and the kind of life, the private life that we lived. So that's what inspired me to write the book. I feel within myself that I should let the whole world know how sweet and kind and what a decent person my husband was.
Absolutely. And he was a great man. My father, the best father in the world. So many memories growing up and, as a teen and then obviously adulthood. What an awesome man. And, thank you so much for honoring him in the way that you've done with the book. Let's get to the book. Chapter 2, which is entitled The Proposal, How God Divinely Connected Us. So you wrote this: Joshi must have asked me to marry him at least 4 times. So of course, you called him Joshi. His name's Joshua. You affectionately called him Joshi. It says, in my mind, this was not going to happen. To be honest, I didn't love him that way. And because he was a close family friend, I had no intention of crossing that line. So my oldest daughter, Jerusalem, when she read the book, she hasn't read all of it as yet, but when she read, that portion of the book, she didn't know that, that he had to propose multiple times, that, there was a level of persistence. Talk to us a little bit about that during those early stages. I guess you can call it courtship. When he was courting you, he wanted to marry you, and that, at first, I guess you weren't feeling it. The vibe wasn't there or whatnot. And then eventually, of course, you did say yes. Talk to us a little about that. I thought that was really fascinating.
Well, it's not that I was playing hard to get, but in my mind, I really didn't believe that he was the right one for me. And as I said in the book, that we were very close friends. I was very close to his family, and I didn't want to cross the line, And so I kept putting him off. I turned him down, maybe 4 times, as I said in the book. And eventually, something started to work in my heart. I began to fall in love with him. And I believe it's a God thing. Because I turned him down so many times, and all of a sudden, I just started to develop a passionate love for him.
Right.
I knew that God was in it.
Absolutely.
So I got the green light to go forward. Light. Yeah.
It felt right. You felt that you were being inspired by God.
Oh,
this was indeed the man for you.
Oh, yes, indeed. It was indeed.
Excellent. Indeed. Excellent. So let's fast forward to chapter number 7, which is entitled His Love and Devotion to Me. And you wrote this. From day one of our journey, he affirmed to me that he was going to make me the happiest wife ever. He promised that he would cherish, protect, and love me unconditionally. Was he ever faithful to that promise? He made me feel special, and I always felt a sense of security in simply living with him. So just want to give you an opportunity, Mom, just to, expound on that and talk about, Dad's great devotion to you. Because as a child, it's something that I observed in the home. I was always very observant, even at a young age. And just to see how warm he was with you and how affectionate and, how patient he was, he certainly was devoted. Talk to us about that.
Well, I don't think I have enough words to do him justice. He was such a wonderful man. He was so tender. He treated me as if I was a tender rose. He never yelled at me, even though he had occasions to, because I'm not the easiest person to live with.
Is that a fact?
I do admit it.
Oh, boy.
I do admit it. And for the first few years of our marriage, I would really get on his case. But further down in our marriage, I started to see myself that, I wasn't really all that kind to him, really. And I changed my attitudes. I believe God changed me. God helped me to change. And I started to be very sweet to him, just as how he was sweet to me. I started to, not that I didn't love him, I loved him, of course, we fell in love, but I developed such deep love for him that, as I said, words cannot express. And he was so tender to me. He was so sweet to me, so kind, so affectionate. I never met a person who was that affectionate.
Right.
And, we just loved each other, and we got along. And, no marriage is perfect.
Right.
But I would say ours, was a good example. A good example.
Can I say, Mom, that from my perspective as your son and growing up in the house, I would say it was a great example. And, even as a young boy, I always had aspirations to, get married, which I eventually did, of course, married now, happily married, to want a marriage, just like yours, just the two of you together. And as you said, no marriage is perfect. Sometimes you would hear, not even fighting. I'd never heard anyone raising their voice at each other or anything, but, people have disagreements, different people. But once again, just the way he spoke to you and the way you spoke to him, the way you two interacted and your connection, the devotion was certainly there on both sides and very, very inspirational, very inspirational.
Yes, I believe we were divinely connected by God.
Praise the Lord.
And that's what worked for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we invited God at an early stage in our marriage. And because we were cognizant of the fact that God resided in our, in our home.
Absolutely.
That's what made the marriage successful and last for so long. We were in love, and only death could have separated us, and it did.
That's right.
So I give God all the glory. Because we couldn't have had that happy and successful marriage without God. He was in the midst, and he just led us and steered us in the right direction. And, I would love everybody, all couples who were married, to have the life that we had.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue to where I want to go next, chapter 13, because earlier you spoke about, one of the reasons you wrote the book was obviously to honor a great man, my father and your late husband. Another reason you wrote the book, of course, was to encourage others, perhaps those, inspiring or, to get married themselves. Chapter 13, which is entitled, You Too Can Have a Successful Marriage. On page 80 of chapter 13, you wrote this: a married couple doesn't necessarily have to see eye to eye or agree on every single thing. There will be conflicts in every marriage, but we must learn to fight fair. We don't have to win every battle. Being happy is far better than being right. It's not worth it to argue about who's right. Working on having a successful marriage is more important than who is right or wrong. And when I read that, I was just like, oh, whoa, that just spoke volumes to me. If you want to expound on that a little.
Well, it is true. We had disagreements. We didn't see eye to eye on every single thing, but we learned to compromise. And we had our arguments, but your dad, my late husband, he was such a humble man that he wouldn't allow me to go to bed angry or anything. He was the very first one that would initiate making up.
All right.
And those making up were wonderful. And so I just want to encourage everybody. You don't have to win every single fight.
Right.
Yeah, you don't.
Because sometimes pride gets in the way, right?
Yes.
You want to assert, my position and I'm right and whatnot.
Exactly. And even though sometimes I knew I was right, I kept quiet. And, I tried to humble myself many times. Sometimes I would apologize to my husband in advance. I would say, Georgie, I am so sorry. And he would say, sorry for what? I said, I'm sorry in case I hurted your feelings today or doing anything.
Right.
And he was so funny. He would say, Norm, you're a nut. And but he would say, you're my kind of nut.
My kind of nut.
Yeah. He would say to me, I love you just the way you are. And I think that was a great thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for myself, as I said, I've read this book a couple of times. It was difficult even just reading the first few chapters, just in terms of, from an emotional standpoint, the tears were really flowing down my eyes. It's such a beautiful piece. And my wife, she's read the book as well. We actually read it together, and we've had many conversations about the book. So I could even say from a personal standpoint, it certainly inspired me to, be on the track to becoming a better man, becoming a better husband. In the book, you also write about, the family and how he was as a father. You write about the relationship that he had with his mother and with his mother-in-law, your mother. And all in all, just an amazing man, really an amazing man. And just the way that you captured your love story, with my dad, and just honoring him that way, and the way it was all pieced together. An amazing book, and I'm incredibly proud of you. I know I can say that on behalf of, your children, my siblings, Adrian, Stephanie, Jazz, and Quartz. We're extremely proud of you. Folks, this is a must-read, A Portrait of Love, The True Story of a Beautiful Marriage by Norma Scarlett. Tell our audience where they can find the book. Where can they purchase the book?
Well, you can purchase the book from my website, Norma Scarlett, and Scarlett is spelled with 2 T's. So normascarlett.com.
normascarlett.com. And of course, some of the proceeds of the book go towards charitable organization.
Yes, my favorite charities. Some of the proceeds will definitely go to my favorite charities. So I encourage everyone to read the book, get a copy. You'll be blessed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Any final words you want to share with our audience? Any words of inspiration regarding, happy marriage, happy life? Anything you want to share as we close out?
Well, everybody can achieve a happy marriage. But you can only achieve a successful and happy marriage by inviting God into the center of your marriage. If God's not there, then you can't do it. It's not possible. It's not possible without God, because you will just be trying on your own to have a good marriage, and it won't work. It won't work. Jesus said, talking to his disciples in John chapter 15, he said, without me, that's verse 5, John 15:5, without me, you can do nothing. And the Apostle Paul, he says in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So to have a successful marriage, it's imperative that you invite God as the center of your marriage.
And what a way to end. True words, truer words never spoken. Thank you so much, Mom. This was an absolute pleasure. As I said, I've been doing this for a while, interviewed all kinds of people. I was so excited to have this opportunity to sit with you and for you to share this story with myself and with our audience as well. A Portrait of Love, the true story of a beautiful marriage by Norma Scarlett. Mom, thanks for everything. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep on shining.
Thank you, son. God bless.